Hello, fight fans. Seattle Mike here. Everybody, please hit that like button if you like everything combat, mixed martial arts, boxing, from UFC to Bellator to the biggest boxing events of the year. We cover them here. Make sure you're subscribed if you want to join what I believe is the best MMA community on YouTube. Very knowledgeable guys, and we do some interactive podcasts on here. And don't forget to ring that bell so you're notified whenever I drop a new video or go live like less than a month from now for Justin Gaethje versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. We've been waiting a long time for that one. I'm going to do something a little different today, guys. And I'm going to ask for a little bit of trust. I've been doing this for over 3 years now. I hope I've earned it. And I'm going to talk about somebody who has inspired me, somebody who, without them and their inspiration, I would not be doing this. I would have no idea what I was doing, and most of us wouldn't even be able to do this. And before you say, Mike, don't you think enough people have responded to the Joe Rogan controversy at Spotify? And maybe you're right. And the answer is probably yes. But I did quite a bit of research on this. I felt that I needed to stick up for Joe, whether I agree with him all the time or not. I don't think that is really relevant. Fight companions would not exist if it wasn't for Joe Rogan. Podcasting would probably not exist. Definitely not in the way that it does now if it were not for Joe Rogan. And I guarantee you Spotify would be a hell of a lot smaller if not for Joe Rogan. And now they finally went over, of course, got the exclusive rights to him because they were looking to get his podcast on their platform for a very long time. He says, no, I'm not really interested. You're not really offering me anything, so I think I'm good where I'm at. Then Spotify says, we really, really, really want you, and we're going to give you over $100 million for exclusive rights for 7 years. Joe says, that's a lot of money, and that's all you want? That's all you want is exclusive rights to my podcast. I can keep running everything the way I have been the entire time. I have my office. I have no employees. You guys aren't going to be meddling. It's just going to run the same way that it always has. This is the deal. You guys know what my product is. Your employees know what it is. Everybody's on board. There's not going to be any surprises here. Spotify, nope, we know what it is, Joe. You know, we've been trying to get you on here for, over 1,000 episodes, and here you go. For those of you that maybe just listen to Joe Rogan on the podcast, or just listen to him as an MMA commentator. Joe Rogan, he's got a wide variety of interests. And that's how I started out on YouTube. It was kind of more of like a variety show. It was not an MMA show. I didn't have the idea for an MMA fight companion. I was having people on that I had conversations with, and we talked about things that I was interested in. I threw a few things on the wall, and what seemed to stick was MMA, and I think that was because people seen that, that was what I was really passionate about, and what I had the most knowledge about from the things that I had spoke about. So that's why this became Fights with Friends, and eventually MMA with Friends. So I take it a little personal when you go and attack Joe, because Joe, he commentated for the UFC, did this for free. Like I said, there would be no fight companions without him. I seen his fight companion. I kind of got the idea. MMA Holes, shout out to MMA Holes, got to give them credit, just hitting 40,000 subscribers. They seen it and they said, hey, We want to do something a little different with this. We're going to do an interactive thing where we read people's comments and we interact with the community. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. I've always wanted to be a sports commentator. For a long time, I've always wanted to be a sports commentator. I really looked up to Jim Lampley. Jim Lampley is my favorite sports broadcaster of all time. I believe he's the best boxing broadcaster of all time. You want to talk about smooth. People think John Anik is smooth. Silk shirts blushed in the presence of Jim Lampley. That's how damn smooth this guy was. I mean, to call him smooth as silk would be an insult. And I continued to watch sports. I continued to have these ideas, but I didn't really have a platform. I didn't really have an idea of how I was going to do this. I wasn't getting any interest, from major broadcast studios or anything. I had ran a website years back called fightfanblog.com. Didn't really get the traction that I wanted it to. Ended up, for almost a couple decades in the corporate world before I came back to this. And I got to thank Joe Rogan for that. But I'm not here just to kiss Joe Rogan's ass. And I don't agree with everything Joe Rogan says. That being said, I don't think that it's relevant to agree with everything Joe Rogan says, to speak the truth and to stick up for this guy. I believe intent is one of the most important, if not the most important thing that we do when we speak. Yes, the words that you say, maybe they're important, but what is the intent? This guy's a comedian, by the way, and he's very curious, and he talks to all kinds of guests. And now you have Spotify employees are all of a sudden now acting like they had no idea who the hell Joe Rogan was. Hundreds of millions of them are watching. I guarantee a lot of these employees were watching Joe Rogan Experience on YouTube, listening to it on podcasts for years. I guarantee you. And why do they all of a sudden hate Joe Rogan? They're threatening to boycott. They're threatening to march in front of the U.S.-based headquarters in New York. Spotify is based from Stockholm, Sweden, for those that don't know, but there is a huge corporate headquarters in New York. And I'm going to tell you just in a minute what their demands are. And they are so ridiculous, I think you're going to have a hard time believing it if you haven't heard what their demands are and what these little spoiled brats, that I would call them, are demanding from their boss. But let's talk about why they want Joe Rogan censored, why they don't think he should have certain guests, and why they disagree with his opinion and feel that he should have trigger warnings on his podcast and that they should have the right to censor his podcast, edit, they say, and cut content out and even block uploads. One of the big issues was his comments on trans athletes, and this all started with Fallon Fox. Fallon Fox is a female mixed martial artist. She started in 2011. Before that, she was a man. She was married to a woman, had a kid. I got to be careful here because some people get so damn sensitive on this kind of thing. They don't consider intent. So maybe this gets demonetized. I don't know. I just felt like I had to come out and make this video. But 2006, after being in the military, after divorcing her then wife, she goes to Thailand and has the transition surgery in 2006. Good for her. And good for her. And good for her. I have no issues with that, and I am extremely happy that she is happy with who she is, and she certainly has the right to be. What she didn't have the right to do, in my opinion, was go into mixed martial arts and fight from 2011 until all the way in 2013, when she came out to a journalist named Sid Ziegler, that she was transitioned from a man, that she used to be a man. And those women didn't know that. Sid Ziegler, a lot of you people probably don't know who he is. He is a journalist for an organization called Outsports. Wrote an article, and I'm not making this up. I'm not making this up. This sounds like insane land to me. But wrote an article why Fallon Fox is the bravest athlete of all time. Of all time. 6 MMA fights, 5-1, when she fought somebody who actually knew what she was doing. I mean, was like pro UFC level. Nothing against these other girls that Fallon fought, but Ashley Lee Evans went in there and really schooled her, really, beat the tar out of her. This guy writes an article, largely made his career off writing about Fallon Fox. One of the things he doesn't write, though, is about the woman who she cracked her skull. Yeah, cracked her skull in a fight. Someone who was born with all of the advantages of a man, the bone structure, the things like that. You guys are smart people. You know the bone structure, the difference. But for those that don't, I'm going to go back to 2014. She fought a female fighter named Tamika Brents. And Tamika Brents gave an interview after the fight in which Fallon Fox cracked her skull. And this is what she said, word for word. I have struggled with many women, and I have never felt the strength I felt in a fight like that night. I can't answer whether it's because she was born a man or not, because I am not a doctor. I can only say that I have never felt so dominated in my life, and that I am an abnormally strong woman in my own right. I still disagree with Fox's struggle. Any other job or career that I say or try, but when it comes to a combat sport, I don't think it's fair. Okay, and Tamika Brents, she had a little more of a heads up. She had an actual heads up, not like the first 2 women that Fallon Fox fought. She had an actual heads up. Said, hey, will you take this fight? Fallon Fox, a transgender woman, and 5 years before she became an MMA fighter, she was actually a man and had transition surgery. Will you take this fight? Talk about the bravest athletes of all time. Some of the bravest athletes maybe of all time are the ones that stepped in there with Fallon Fox, knowing the advantage that she had. I know about hormone replacement therapy. I know about testosterone. I know about some of the things. I know that she does not have all the advantages that I would have, or a man that had not transitioned had they jumped into the cage. I'm not saying that this is just a man versus a woman, period, which some have said, which factually is incorrect. But you don't go in there and take the bones out of this person and take the bone structure out and take the skull out and make it thinner and do all of the things that you would do to a woman. No, you still have all these advantages of genetics, and you don't even have to have the discussion, and I'm not going to. About the equality and the physical attributes that are born with men or women. You can go back to, uh, you can go to the biology, you can do a lot of things, but you can just go back to ancestry. It's in the history books. For thousands of years, men traded, men with lifted weights, they fought in wars. If they were exactly the same, a couple thousand years ago, they were exactly the same. All the bone structure, women were exactly as fast as men, exactly as strong as men. Everything was exactly the same. And maybe it was. I have no idea. Over thousands of years of the gender positions that we put men and women in, having women mostly being, the gatherers while the men were the hunters. It wasn't thought to be ladylike, to lift weights and do things like that. I mean, and a lot of this came from oppression of women not so long ago. They weren't encouraged to lift weights. Women probably weren't even allowed, I don't know, in weight training classes in high school. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I'm sure if you go back far enough, you could probably find some schools that didn't allow them. You guys get where I'm going with this. So to call Fallon Fox the bravest athlete of all time, I think is absolutely absurd. And Sid Ziglar, shame on you, Sid Ziglar, about sports. Absolutely preposterous, and that has nothing to do with the LGBTQ plus community. Let's get back to what the Spotify employees are demanding, though. From Joe Rogan, who, like I said, this started out because he dared to just say Fallon Fox should not be fighting women in MMA. They should not be forced to fight her, and she should have been upfront about it. She should have told these women, and I don't really like the idea of her being in the UFC. Okay, you could agree or disagree with that. But I think you're arguing in bad faith, or you're just an asshole. If you argue against the fact that Fallon Fox had a responsibility to tell these women that she was a transgender woman. And that's just facts. If you don't like it, hit the stop button now, unsubscribe, and you don't have to watch me, just like you don't have to watch Joe Rogan. So these Spotify employees that are so upset at the transphobia of Joe Rogan, who I believe is, the most well-intended man in media probably today, one of the most popular. And Chael Sonnen talked about these employees maybe being jealous. I don't know if they're jealous. I mean, maybe they wish they had a podcast that big. Maybe, a lot of these things. Spotify is paying these spoiled brats $120,000 to $130,000 a year in New York, in the middle of a pandemic where many people can't even work, and they are literally biting the hand that feeds them. They are marching against the hand that feeds them. They want to do surgery, hyperbolic surgery. It's a hyperbole on the hand that feeds them. This is what Spotify employees are demanding, according to barstoolsports.com. And I encourage you to go there and read the articles there. Spotify employees are demanding direct editorial oversight over Joe Rogan Experience. I'm not talking about the people in the podcasting department, because they definitely have plenty of people there. And by the way, plenty of positions that have opened up in New York. If you're interested in working for a company that seems to treat their employees pretty damn well, $120,000 to $130,000 a year, plus what is only described as incredible perks and benefits. So They also want the ability to directly edit or remove sections of upcoming interviews or block the uploading of the episode entirely. Your job, the only reason you have a job is because Spotify has artists and now podcasters that make content for them that people pay a monthly fee for, or advertisers pay on the free service to be on there. Do you not realize that you do not have a business without artists or without podcasters? It is literally your job. How you can refuse to do your job and now you're going to strike because you don't like not what your boss is saying, what somebody thousands of miles away or hundreds of miles away in Texas in their own private podcast room, that you have to go to the Spotify app, you have to find the episode that you want, and you have to click play. Nobody's forcing these people to watch this. Actually, Joe Rogan said, I don't want you to do anything to the show. I don't want any of your help. Please leave it just like it is. This is why I'm signing with you. You said you want the content, you want exclusive rights, you're going to give me a bunch of money. I'm going to do everything for you. Everything. He's even doing their job for him. He's literally doing their job for him, and they are getting paid because Joe Rogan exists. They get paid $120,000 to $130,000 a year, largely because Joe Rogan exists. And during the middle of a pandemic, making $120,000 to $130,000 a year, they want to strike and they want to march and they want. Oh, I'm not done with this. They want things that are problematic to have trigger warnings. And the Joe Rogan Experience, the actual show, to have a trigger warning on it. We already have a mature audiences rating, and I'm pretty sure Joe falls under that. Everybody knows what he's doing, and they don't care that he swears. They don't care some of the things that he says that they agree with. Nothing that they agree with. He has all kinds of. He's had transgender guests. He's had, the world's only gay strongest man competitor. He's had gay bodybuilders. He's had. This guy is literally pretty much the definition of exclusivity. He wants to include everyone. Inclusivity, excuse me. He wants to include everyone. And you want to push him out because you want him to only include the people that you agree with. And Uncle Joe made you cry because he said something that you didn't agree with. Uncle Joe said a lot of things that I don't agree with, to be clear. And his guests have said a lot of things that I don't agree with. He's had a lot of controversial guests on there. He's had a lot of guests that get a lot of views, like Elon Musk. He's had some controversial people like Candace Owens, who a lot of people don't agree with. I don't agree with. Joe Rogan really put her on the spot. He showed he didn't agree with most of the things that she thought. But it gave her the right to speak. Jordan Peterson, I agree or disagree depending on what the subject is. I don't agree or disagree with everything that he says. And the list goes on and on. I'm not going to go through the 1,000 guests that Joe Rogan has had on the podcast. But, you guys get the point. I think we need to stand up. Whether you like the podcast or not, and some of you guys have been vocal. Some of you guys say you don't like Joe Rogan. You don't like his podcast, or you just like when he commentates for the UFC. I think you're some of the most important people that he needs to stand up. Because the First Amendment is not just free speech for what you agree with. Nowhere in the First Amendment does it say, you know, we don't infringe on the right of speech or the freedom of the press unless we disagree with it. I didn't see that part in there. So a message to Spotify employees. There are a ton of people that would like your jobs. Guys, go to Spotify right now, and there is a little icon, and it says, if you're a reasonable person, go over there, and it says they're hiring. They're hiring, and there's a lot of positions open, actually. And you guys might be surprised at some of the positions that are open at Spotify. Many of them have to do with podcasting. Content editor, content creator, podcast marketing. 113 positions in New York, a few in San Francisco. Some of those, are a lot of them, I'm sure you can do remotely. So if you can handle having somebody that's in your company say a few words that you disagree with, and you think you can suffer on $120,000 to $130,000 a year with incredible perks and benefits, maybe go over to Spotify.com and apply for a job over there. And you can support Uncle Joe and maybe support your family as well. Let me know what you guys think, though. I do want to hear what you guys think, and I'm going to read your comments whether you agree or disagree with me. So let me know down there in the comments. Let me know, would you like to see me do more things like this? Are you like, Mike, this is just really out in left field. We don't want to see things like this. This is an MMA channel. Let me know that too. I'm not going to be mad. But guys, thanks for taking the time to listen to this. Something a little different. Like I said, as always, I love you. I respect you. And I will stand up for your finances to say whatever it is you believe, even if I disagree with it.